Two cities, two budgets. In Toronto, a one-bedroom rent averages about 2,222 Canadian dollars a month. In Chicago, a one-bedroom averages about 1,956 US dollars. Now, the big split. The GTA's average home sold price was about 1.04 million Canadian dollars in November 2025. Chicago's median sale price that month was about 365,000 US dollars. That gap changes everything: saving speed, buying timelines, and risk. Quick affordability math. Use median household income as a rough yardstick. Toronto's price-to-income ratio is around 12:1 on those numbers. Chicago is closer to 5:1. That difference shows up in down payments, mortgage size, and how long you feel stuck renting today. Rent is the monthly gut check, but ownership is the long game. Toronto's housing cost is the main driver of stress. Chicago is not cheap, but the entry price is far lower. Property taxes flip the script. Toronto's 2025 residential property tax rate was about 0.754%. Cook County is closer to about 2.0% effective property tax, so the annual bill can sting. Utilities are also split. Ontario time-of-use electricity can be about 9.0 cents per kilowatt-hour off-peak and higher at peak. Chicago bills vary, but energy can look reasonable until you add health insurance. Both cities have high wage lanes and huge service sectors. Toronto's median household income was about 84,000 Canadian dollars in 2020. Chicago's median household income was about $74,000. For jobs, the cycle matters. Canada's unemployment rate was 6.5% in November 2025. The US was 4.6% that same month. Toronto takes more off your paycheck up front. Chicago takes less off income, but many people pay a lot to get medical coverage. Ontario adds provincial tax on top of federal tax. Illinois has a flat 4.97% state income tax plus US federal and payroll taxes. Toronto at 60,000 Canadian dollars. Total tax plus CPP and EI often lands in the low 20% range. Toronto at 100,000 Canadian dollars, often in the high 20s. Toronto at 150,000 Canadian dollars, often low to mid 30s. Chicago at $60,000, often low to mid 20s. Chicago at $100,000, you're still usually under 30% once federal, payroll, and Illinois tax are added. Chicago at 150,000 US dollars, it commonly lands in the low 30% range depending on deductions and filing status. Sales tax is a daily difference. Ontario's HST is 13%. Chicago's combined sales tax rate is commonly 10.25%. A 100 Canadian dollar purchase in Toronto adds 13 Canadian dollars in tax. A 100 US dollar purchase in Chicago adds about 10.25 US dollars. Don't argue feelings. Use trends and per-person rates. Chicago recorded 573 murders in 2024, down from 2023. Toronto's homicide totals are far lower. Chicago's violence spiked in the early 2020s and has been edging down since. Toronto has had ups and downs, but nothing on that scale. Also, crime reporting systems differ across countries, so treat comparisons as directional. Transit is strong in both cities, but it is neighborhood dependent. In 2024, the TTC logged about 420 million trips. The CTA logged about 309 million trips. Commute time is where Toronto feels heavy. Toronto's average commute reached 34.9 minutes in May 2025. Congestion backs that up. TomTom estimates Toronto drivers lose about 77 hours a year in traffic at rush hour. Chicago is around 65 hours. Live near the rail in either city and you save time and money. This is the biggest system difference. In Toronto, medically necessary care is publicly covered, but waits can be real. Ontario reports patients spend about 3.2 hours on average in emergency departments. Ki-High tracks surgery waits against benchmarks like 26 weeks for major joint replacement. In Chicago, access can be faster, but the bill can be brutal without strong insurance. In the US, employer plans average about $8,951 a year for single coverage and $25,572 for family coverage. Even then, the average single deductible is about $1,787. Canada often costs you time, the US often costs you money. For Canadians weighing Toronto against Chicago, begin with housing costs. Toronto can offer a bigger upside, but it usually demands a much tougher climb to get established. Chicago has a lower entry price, but higher carry costs in property taxes and healthcare. If you land a solid US offer with benefits, Chicago can feel like a financial reset. If stability matters more, Toronto still wins on the safety net. The best city is the one where your numbers leave you room to breathe.